what are the most common food sensitivities that you see?
Number one, gluten. I mean,
Mhm.
hands down. I mean, I would argue that gluten, anyone with an autoimmune condition needs to be gluten free. At least that's what I've seen clinically. I'm
Yeah.
sure you have probably a similar,
Hmm.
um, um, experience with it. But gluten is number one. Dairy is number two. Sugar is number three. Actually processed sugar, which isn't good for you anyway.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people need to have a test to show them, hey, this is black and white. You need to avoid that. And then beyond that, it's very much unique to the person. I mean, one of the stories I talk a lot about is the story of Ginger, who I wrote about her in my book. She was 9 years old and had a terminal diagnosis. She had 6 months to live, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Hmm.
And she was allergic, or not, I say allergic, she was sensitive to blueberries. And every morning her mom would
Hmm.
feed her a blueberry smoothie because blueberries are superfoods, right? And they're
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory and they have so many great benefits. But in her case, they were part of her problem. So that's pretty random. If you think about, okay, blueberries, most people don't know, okay, they don't even suspect a food like blueberries or broccoli, right? Or Brussels sprouts or something like that. And have people reactive to beef and people reactive to chicken or eggs, sometimes different nuts. So it's very unique to the individual. But I'd say if you're just guessing at where to start, maybe you don't have the doctor to run the test. Start with gluten, start with dairy, start with sugar. Those three things probably will make you feel tremendously better just by avoiding.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, there's a common phrase that we use in natural medicine. One man's superfood may be another man's poison, right? And so, again, the idea of superfoods, we typically are calling it that based on the nutritional content, but not how the body's immune system is responding to it. And that's really what we're focusing on today, is not the nutritional element of the food, but the way the immune system is responding to it. And you can have, amazing nutritious food like an egg, which is, you know, incredibly nutritious for your body. But if your immune system is reacting to it, it's not going to be good for you. You're going to get a net negative when you put that in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, there's a common diet out there that a lot of people that are on that have autoimmunity or chronic inflammation use. It's the paleo autoimmune diet, right? It eliminates a lot of different common triggers. What have you seen with that? Have you seen good results using that?
Um, I don't use specific generalized diets in my practice. I now in my online community, I encourage people, to avoid those three. So like our no grain, no pain diet is dairy
Yeah.
free, sugar free, grain free, not just gluten, but
Yep.
all grains. As well, in the deeper phases of the diet, we eliminate things like nightshades and eggs and other things. But that's just generic advice. Anybody who comes to see me in my practice, I test, right? My motto is test, don't guess.
Hmm.
If you're, especially if you're at a point where you've already guessed as well as you can on your own, like I'm not going to guess better than a person who lives in their own body, feels what they feel every day. So I always run the testing. As far as AIP, diets like AIP, autoimmune paleo, I mean, they're great places to start again, but a lot of people come to me are already on that diet. And that's
Hmm.
where they're frustrated, is that they're already really restrictive in that, because there's a lot of restriction in that. And so my thought is, sometimes we have to restrict to expand, but why restrict more than what's necessary? And so just again, a large, overwhelming restrictive diet sometimes can seem daunting. And it's really hard for a lot of people, one, to overcome and just even kind of comply to that. They got families and social things they want to do, and that can really, really challenge them. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't make those changes if they feel better doing it, but testing is, in my opinion, the best option if you're hitting a roadblock.
And there's a lot of different testing options out there. I know there's some popular tests like the ALCAT test. There's IgG, IgM testing. There's testing with the food, just straight up testing with the food cooked. There's a lot of different methods. There's a lot of different kind of lab testing strategies. What have you found looking at, a number of them? What have you found to be, in a sense, the most effective?
We use a technology called lymphocyte response. LRA, lymphocyte response assay. And what it measures, it does a few different things. Number one, it measures IgG, IgA, IgM, something called an immune complex and something called a T cell response. But it's a live analysis. So you're actually watching the lymphocyte respond in real time. So you can see a reaction as it's occurring. And so as you subject the cells to different types of, food reagents, you get a much more accurate representation of what a person is going to react to. There's some flaws with some of the antibody tests because antibodies, you can make an antibody to a food or to an external substance, and it could be a protective antibody and not necessarily a damaging antibody. And so a lot of the IgG tests come back, and it's not that they can't be accurate or helpful. It's that they can give you an overwhelming list of food reactions. So like, the average person that I see that runs an LRA, they may have 10 to 15 reactions, to foods. IgG testing, you'll get like 50, 60 reactions on a person. And so now, again, it goes back into over restriction because these IgG tests do not differentiate between friendly or damaging antibodies. And that's where, again, diet restriction is already hard. Let's make it less hard, but let's make it more accurate for the patient to embark on diet change without feeling so overwhelmed that it seems impossible.
Yeah. So that's really good. So LRA, lymphocyte reaction
response, lymphocyte response assay.
Response assay. Yep. So really good information there. Now, how about home testing? People will do things like muscle testing, pulse testing, things like that. Have you seen any sort of positive results with that?
I mean, I don't do muscle testing. I trained in it. I actually trained with the creator of muscle testing years ago. And what I found was it's subjective testing, and it's not that it can't be helpful. There are a lot of people that have been helped by muscle testing, but what I find is it changes too radically quick. And so what you get is okay, this week you're reactive to this, next week you're reactive to that. And it's just a lot of bouncing around without a consistency and a reliability. The immune system has a 6-month life cycle. This is another reason why I like lymphocyte response. It's because when we test someone, we see a reaction. We know that reaction is going to be there as long as the life of that lymphocyte is there. So generally speaking, when we take somebody on a restrictive diet based on their test results, it's not a permanent restriction. It's a 6 to 8 month restriction because we know we're going to recycle the immune system in that process. On the other side of recycling the immune system, when those new cells come along, they're less angry. Remember what autoimmune disease is. It's like post-traumatic stress of the immune system. Your immune system is attacking food. It's attacking the environment. It's attacking you. And it's very angry and it's very prone and quick to reaction. So we have to calm that down, right? And that first generation of cells, if we can calm that down, then the next daughter cells that come along, that next generation will be a lot less aggressive. And this is what I meant earlier by we restrict to expand. So we restrict initially, and then we're able to come back a lot of times after that initial restriction and it re-expand their diet because their immune systems are more tolerable to things. The immune system shouldn't overreact to food, right? Like that, Our immune systems are designed to handle most things, but we're so subjected to so many dangerous chemicals and toxins, preservatives, pesticides, that and drugs too. So many people rely on medicines to mimic to treat their symptoms and don't realize that drugs damage the immune system and damage the GI tract. So you end up with basically a collection of allergies and sensitivities over time that now the act of eating becomes an act of war. And so your immune system is always on high alert. So again, I know that wasn't exactly your question. You were asking about muscle testing and some of these other things. I just don't rely on those because my opinion of those is that they're just too subjective to base major decisions on for long periods of time. And that type of data changes too radically. It's too different. Even when I trained in applied kinesiology, my instructor, I would watch him get different results in the same person within a 10-minute time frame. And that, to me, that was just not objectively acceptable as a means to use clinically and feel comfortable about the accuracy.
Yeah, that makes sense. And typically by the time people are getting to somebody like you, they've tried a lot of these different elimination diets, a lot of different strategies to kind of try to figure out, and they've eliminated a lot of things, and they've tried a whole bunch of different supplements, and then they're like, I can't figure this out. So they go in for you, and they really need that objective testing, right? So they know exactly what to do.